here at our podcast, and I'm honored to be here in this room where my life kind of changed right here, and I'm honored to be with you, and yeah, it's just we're gonna talk
And
about
I'm
it
cool
today.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's just I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful to be with you, and I'm thankful to be with you, G. And it's a blessing to be a part of this conversation. And yeah, we're here at Homeboy Industries with Father Greg on another episode of Without Your Permission.
Is that what it's called?
Without your permission. Yeah. It was like
Without your permiso. Permiso.
Yeah.
Without your permission. I like saying it like that, like with
I know,
the
I
little.
understand.
it's more flavor, right?
Yeah.
You got flavor on it.
Even though it's like right Spanish.
Sabor a mí.
Yeah. I mean, like, so I guess just we could start about the beginning. Like, I mean, one of the questions that I believe a lot of viewers, like, we see like Homeboys now for what it is, this big corporation in downtown Los Angeles, but a lot of people don't know where it started. And just reading your book, Tattoos on the Heart, kind of gave me a whole insight beyond what I knew coming through my homeboys when I came here through prison. So I guess one of my questions, and if you want to, wherever you want to start, G, like this is your show, but like I think it was like, I remember you had came back from Bolivia, right? Is that where was that you were doing the missionary
Yeah, I was
work?
in Bolivia.
You're in Bolivia, right? And then you came back with the intention that you wanted to work in, I guess, one of the poorest communities in Los Angeles. Was that?
Yeah, so I was assigned before I went to Bolivia. When you come back, they said you're going to go to Santa Clara University and work with students there and try to lead them to some immersion experience where they go work with the poor.
Right.
So when I came back, it kind of changed my life being in Bolivia.
Well, what had?
Well, it was the poorest country in the hemisphere at the time, and
what year was this?
This was 84, 85. And so I had lost my ganas. I came back, and then I was supposed to study one more year in Berkeley, and then we were making plans, to this team of us to go to Santa Clara University.
Right.
Finally, I had to sit down with them and say, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's my heart's not in it. And so I had spent 2 summers in a row at Dolores Mission.
Right.
So I asked my boss, my provincial, my superior, I can't do this Santa Clara thing. I just don't feel it. How about Dolores Mission? Now, he might have said, no, I still want you to go to Santa Clara.
Right.
But because the pastor had just left,
right,
because was a hard place, And he goes, okay, yeah, I need somebody there. So it was perfect.
Right. And what was
normally it wouldn't have happened like that.
But. Right.
What I was thinking about the book too, and like one of the biggest things from the book that stand out to me is that part when you remember when you go up on the hill. I don't know if it was a hill or what it was.
Yeah,
the rose petal story.
Yeah, with the Indio.
Like what were some of the things out there that you saw that like spoke of God?
Well, that was a story where I had been asked to say mass in this, and actually I have pictures from that place, that time right there.
Bolivia.
Yeah, that's Bolivia. And look at my skinny ass. I lost.
Right there. Wow.
Hey, that's crazy because you still have hair right there.
Thank
G.
you. Thank you.
I didn't even think that was you.
Dark hair. Lush.
Can you flip people off on a podcast?
Yeah, we're being recorded.
That's the community. That's the community I used to go up to, and so.
Damn, G.
And so I said mass there, and my Spanish wasn't good, and it sucked, and I had forgotten the book, so I had to make stuff up. I mean, it was that's me saying mass right there in the corner.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, that's it. That's that. So after that mass, and it was up on a plateau, and after mass. They said, hear this woman's confession, and it took forever, and she only spoke Quechua, so I didn't understand a word.
Yeah, the native tongue.
Yeah, and then they all left me there up on that mountaintop. So I had to walk all the way down, which was quite a distance. I think they just forgot that I wasn't in the truck.
Wow.
And that's when I was walking across that field where that mass is. I haven't seen that picture in a long time. I've never focused on it. And they're all sitting out on this field. And I just felt like I was worthless because my Spanish was terrible. And they left me there, So then I was walking across the field, and this campesino old guy comes, and he says, gracias por haber venido. Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then he reached into his coat pocket and dropped these rose petals on my head endlessly, you know. And I remember I was just sobbing because he arrived at the right moment.
Yeah.
You know? And I always said that I went up to that community. That wasn't my community where I worked. I was more lower, closer to the city. But I would go up there once a month or more often. And I never saw that guy again. So it was always kind of this mystical,
Serious.
Who was that guy, you know?
And that was definitely like a changing point.
Yeah, so that's when I said I can't. But it's also being in the proximity and the vicinity of the poor and allowing them to reach you. Then you're changed, and then it's everything is different. So when I went back to Berkeley, it was like the third world. I just thought, what am I doing here? You know,
You just didn't feel like you fit, huh?
I didn't feel like I fit.
Yeah.
And did you feel that you fit in Dolores Mission?
Yeah, I did. You know, even though my Spanish sucked.
Right.
You know, but that was a gift. You know, all those things are gifts. You know, because my Spanish sucked, you know, I'd have to go like this, you know,
Yeah.
to the people. And the people were used to, you know, priests from Mexico.
Yeah.
Ay, padrecito, you know, ay, no, hayamos que hacer. They don't know what to do. You tell us what to do.
Yeah.
But it was a role reversal because I didn't know what the hell to do, you know. And I'd say, "What do you think?"
And
I mean,
it's
like
crazy,
politically
yeah.
and in terms of organizing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what do we do? There were raids in those days. That was Simpson Rodino, and
Raid? What type of raid?
immigration raids.
Oh, okay.
And that was the big issue when I arrived. It wasn't gangs.
Damn.
You know.
Oh,
So
in the project.
in the projects, there wasn't the gangs weren't the issue.
So there was raids right there at that time.
Oh yeah.
And poverty.
It wasn't.
full
It wasn't
effect?
ICE. It was migra. You know.
Yeah.
And then they had the Immigration Reform and Control Act, but it allowed for separation of families. So, you know, the husband could qualify for amnesty, but the wife wouldn't because she came so many years later. Once he got settled, he called for her. And
so families were being split.
Well,
apart.
they were being split.
Yeah.
And they were turning to you for.
Yeah, and so we were trying to figure out what do we do next step. So it was interesting because then they were forced because of my own inability
To step up.
Yeah, so they were forced to say, I don't know, what do you think we should do? Where they were accustomed to looking to the padrecito who would give the guidance.
To guide them.
Yeah, and then for me it was by accident because I didn't speak. My Spanish sucked. So by accident, you were leading by walking behind them,
Damn.
rather than ahead of them. You know?
Right.
And I bet like in those experiences, just thinking about it, like we learn a lot when we create space so others could lead, huh?
Well, I mean, I think that's your experience here.
Yeah.
You know, where
It
suddenly you inhabit
The
your
truth.
power, your dignity,
Yeah.
your wisdom.
Because it's funny, like when somebody asks you, like even the simplest thing is, what do you think? It like gives you worth, you know?
Right.
And when I think about the rose petal story, it's crazy because no one had ever asked me, hey, what do you think? What do you feel about this?
Yeah.
You know, it's always just been like, hey, get over there and line up. Or even as a kid, this is where you belong. This is where they belong. This is what you need to do. You know, this is what you can and can't do. But it was nobody had ever said, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, so that to me is very special.
And the more we can do that here,
The better.
the better.
Yeah.
So that was your introduction to Dolores Mission and the community right there, right? And was the gang element infused at that time or not just yet?
Well, you know, it really wasn't so much.
Right.
You know, so this is 84. When were you born?
85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I came into the world.
We waited
As soon
for
as
you.
I came into the world, all hell broke loose.
we waited a few years. But, you know, obviously, so some of the gangs that marked those two housing projects go back to the 40s.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But then there were a great many of them that were born, you know, 5 years after you were born. You know, these breakdancing crews.
Right.
Things begin to change.
And they were, you know, they'd go downtown and they'd put the hat out and they'd break dance and people would put money. Then all of a sudden they kind of did this, well, who are we? And they went, oh, we're a gang. You know, if you look in Boyle Heights anyway, in Hollenbeck Police,
right,
all these gangs were born. So they're not all. You go back to the Pachuco era.
They're not even from that era.
No, they're from the
80s,
the late 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
So 88 was when I buried my first young person. But you know, my first, I arrived on July 3 as pastor. And I remember July 4, I have a huge family, so I went over and they had something at my sister's house, you know. And so a party or whatever, and I came home. And then in those days, you know, we have a house now separate from the parish, but in those days we lived in the rectory. And I was the only one there. And this guy knocked on the door, and he's just wearing trunks. And he's dripping wet, and he says, and I don't understand what he's saying because he's so sobbing and hysterical. And two mothers, both high on PCP, they snuck into the public pool with their kids, and two of the kids got in the pool and drowned.
Wow!
And one of the mothers, seeing the kid floating, dove in, but she was so high that she hit her head. And she was in a coma.
Wow.
So my very first funeral was these two little boys in tiny little caskets at Dolores Mission. And a week later, I buried the mother who was handcuffed to her bed at White Memorial Hospital because they were going to charge her with the negligence.
So that was your introduction
That was my introduction to Dolores Mission.
Wow.
I had been there a day.
I remember when we were coming back from somewhere on the west side. It was kind of, we're going through like a nice neighborhood, and I remember this story. But I remember asking you like what it was like for you growing up, or when was the first time you ever seen a gang member? You remember when I was like, what was your childhood like? Because I always thought like, man, you know what? G must have had a rough ass childhood for him to fucking want to help the homies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't, right?
No.
So that would be a question. Because of this story reminded me of that drive, I would want to ask, like, what was your childhood like? You know.
Well, again, I always think it's like the lottery. People win the lottery or they don't win the lottery, and it's all pure dumb luck, you know. And so I won the parent lottery, I won the geography lottery, the neighborhood lottery, the location lottery, the education lottery, a mental health lottery, an educational. And sibling.
You were loved. You were loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so people always want to strike a high moral distance between us and them. You know, and say, don't they know the difference between right and wrong and all that kind of stuff, which doesn't make any sense, you know, because I never had to carry what you guys had to carry or what the folks in the projects had to carry ever. Why? Because I'm morally superior? No, I just won these lotteries.
Yeah.
Absolutely dumb luck. You know, and so homie was telling me right now that, you know, this lady had a miscarriage, and it's, why do these things happen to me, you know? But I don't even want to say it's bad luck, you know? I just say things happen.
Yeah.
But when it comes to being born in a certain zip code, as opposed to another zip code.
Yeah.
Well, that's just serendipitous, you know. That's just
how the cookie
lottery.
Crumbles, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why people need to. That's why they need to let go of the judgment and allow awe to permeate, you know, so that you can go, wow, I never had to deal with, you know, a woman who's overdosed in the backyard and you're trying to carry her into the house, as we were talking about earlier. Yeah. With this guy, I was about to do their wedding, you know, I've known him for a long time, who I just spoke before.
Yeah.
And he hugged me when he left, and he didn't let go. And he wouldn't let go. And I think he was getting kind of emotional, and he whispered in my ear, I always expected you to do my funeral, not my wedding. He just wouldn't let go. And, well, I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Because I never had to deal with that. You know, people planning their funerals.
Yeah.
And not their futures. And not their weddings, of course.
And for us to be able to create this community where those ideas don't exist, where we're separate, where we're introduced to the truth about our lives. And I feel like when we're introduced to the truth about our lives, then we realize the truth about other people's lives, and we recognize the truth about all of us is that we belong to one another.
And it's about wound, and it's about brokenness, you know. And that's kind of a mantra around here too, which is if you don't welcome it, if your wound isn't your friend, you're going to despise the wounded. You just are. You even see it here too. It's almost a way of measuring. Oh, no, you're a stranger.
Yeah,
you're a stranger to your own wounds.
Yeah.
And because you are, you can just see it how people are with the ones who color outside the lines,
right?
The ones who behave badly and don't play well with others. You know, the more you are connected to your brokenness and your wound, the more compassionate you are with the fact that this guy's violent behavior is a language, you know. But if you're not at home, then you're gonna want to squash this guy
or judge him.
I want him out of here.
Yeah.
That's it. No more. And I get it because people talk shit about me about why is this guy still working here?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And I get it. Eventually, at some point, the guy is screaming at you, I'm not ready for this. And I want to honor that.
But there are moments when he's screaming, help me.
Yeah. He's mainly screaming, I am in so much friggin' pain.
Help me.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the biggest things, like, for me, is I wasn't introduced to it. I was so lost that I thought, like, the choice that I made was a solid decision. Because I was the choice I made to be a gang member.
Yeah.
And that's how removed I was away from my pain. Because I was in denial of, like, why I even chose in the first place.
But it's like you're forced to be removed, right? Like you're taught, like, to not feel. You're taught. You're taught all this. So by the time you make that decision, it's like it's already running on autopilot, kind of.
And I feel like the survival, like, you know, we create these characters to survive through our circumstances.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when I came, then I got to this place in my life, it was like to take the mask off was so scary. Or to even go like, well, who really am I? I had to go back to the story, you know, and the story was scary. Even at times I have to go back, have to refer back to moments in my life when stuff comes up and go like, damn, I'm still hurt from that. That right there was painful. And I have to look at it and not be afraid. And that's true courage. When in actuality, when before we would think like standing up and saying your neighborhood was courage.
Right.
True courage is to go back to the story and look at it and reference it and go like, damn, that's where it comes from. When I didn't trust homies when I came through here, like, oh man, came from back when I was 9 years old.
Right.
And I was hurt in a way that I should have never been hurt.
That's right.
That's where it comes from. And that's what I love about Homeboys is that we do that for one another here, create the space.
Do you think the proper way to address the trauma is, and I know is in a gentle way? Would you say that it's because you can't force someone to think that, right? So what are your thoughts on the proper way to address it? Because I think me and Jose being in this new generation of helping our brothers and sisters like that, I guess we sometimes get stuck. Like, how do we make them, you know, how to make them believe? How do we help them? You know, when is it a gentle way? Is it just leading by example? Like, I think that's where I get torn at, G.
Yeah, it's hard to trust love and tenderness and kindness, but you have to.
Yeah.
You know, and love never fails. And so a lot of times in our mind, you know, we have this kind of this spirit that wants to say, get out of the way, let me handle this.
Yeah.
Love, kindness, tenderness. Yeah. He understands this one language. Watch. And then we, get in his face and scream at him. And, and you win the argument.
Right.
But it's a failure. It's always a failure. I always use the example for me was I had 2 moments where homies got shot and then were taken to the emergency room, and homies went to the emergency room and were quite threatening to the nurses there. 2 examples of it. And one was they went and say, better take care of our homie and blah, 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 and threatening, and they're drunk. And this woman was like from the projects, it was like
she didn't care.
Oh, hell no. You don't get to talk to me like that. Yeah. And it was right in his face. I watched it. And it was, and she just told him off. And she may have driven home that night and said, yeah, I told that guy. He thought he could come into this emergency room. And it was a total failure. It was a complete failure on every level. It didn't bring more control. It didn't bring more calm. Cut to another time, the exact same thing happened with different homies, different neighborhoods. And the guy that was screaming at the nurse, I looked at this, I thought, wow, this is like a holy person. She just said, oh my God, it just must hurt so bad to see your friend hurt like this. Yeah. Hey, do me a favor, help me. Because if we can get everybody calm here, then we can take care of him and we can get him better. It was a totally different tactic.
Right.
But it was brilliant, and it totally won. Now, that's not satisfying to a lot of people who want to win the argument and get in your face.
Right.
F me. Oh, no.
F you.
Let me tell you what time of day it is, I grew up in the projects. What are you going to tell me?
Yeah.
And it was a total failure. Cops were like that sometimes back in the day. Because, like, if they grew up in the projects, then they were oftentimes the worst. Because it was a complicated psychological thing.
Because they were still in that psyche, right?
Well, they're also thinking that you, as a gang member from the projects, are giving the rest of us black eyes. So it was always judgment. It was never compassion.
So I guess, but in that moment, like when like you really, really want someone to get it. And I guess in that moment, we have to think too, like, what are my intentions? Like, I really want him to get it.
Right.
But is he ready to get it? Because sometimes we want to save people, like with my brothers.
Right.
I went through that, like, and then I had to be, like, I had to pass the buck. Because I was like, dog, I don't want you to go to the pen. Like, I don't want you to experience this. And there was those moments where I was like, stop. Like, listen, sit down. Let me tell you, what this experience was like and how you can prevent it. But it was the wrong approach because all it did was like push my brother away.
Right.
Like, boom. Then he didn't want to talk to me or share his deepest, like, parts of his story with me. And I had to pass it. But it was like out of genuine, like, I loved him. I just didn't want to see him go through it. And that was hard for me to do. And it's one of those things where, have you had to do that before? Where you had to just say, man, I got to pass the buck, where you just want someone so bad to get it? Have you ever experienced that?
Well, yeah, only every day, But part of the thing is, this is why there's that kind of notion of how do we convince this gang member to leave it behind? How do I coax, cajole, win the argument with that guy? And so then people do this thing. Well, the only people who can do that are people who've been there. And again, which is okay if the task is to convince somebody to not do something. But it isn't. The task is be reached by him, receive him, listen to him, honor his pain, value him so that he feels valuable. And I think for me that's important, not just because I'm a white guy who works with gang members, but because it's a human thing.
Yeah.
It's not a specialized, rarefied thing.
Everybody needs that, right?
Yeah, well, everybody can do that.
Right.
Because everybody disqualifies themselves. They think, oh, I couldn't possibly connect. But, I look at my sister here who's, a retired teacher. And, this is the farthest from her experience. And she told me the other day, she said, this is the best teaching experience I've ever had in my life.
Right.
And they love her.
Yeah.
You know? And she holds her cards like this. I go, hey, so what's happening with that?
She ain't telling you nothing.
Serio, pedo? You're not even going to give me the 411?
She
on
has
that
that
guy?
relationship.
Oh, yeah. She goes, nope, I'm not going to tell you anything. She's done that to me like 5 times.
I guess.
So what do you think is the thing that keeps people coming back, that keeps people that are totally opposites? Because this is just one out of many people that come through these doors year after year. What do you think is the thing that they receive in this sacred place that they can't receive in any other part of the world? Or
Well, it's like Miss June, you know, who's been here for forever.
Since the
Even before our old office. Yeah. So maybe 15 years or something. And, you know, she grew up in the internment camps and, you know, was during the war.
World War II.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she had, you know, had a hard life and worked as a teacher for whatever it was, 40 years, and came here to teach. So one year we said, we want to honor you at the Lo Maximo. And she was, I don't want to be honored. And I said, well, it would really mean a lot to us if we could honor you. So she was standing in the door here, and she goes, okay, but this place has saved my life.
Damn.
You know? So she felt kind of, you know, fraudulent, you know, that we would honor her. But that's a universal experience here. Anybody who stays and hangs in there with them,
right?
They're being touched by people. They're being reached.
And I think I felt it in my time of also doing this. You know, like when we went to Orange County Juvenile Hall last month to go talk to the juveniles that are getting sentenced to life. You know. That are fighting life cases, and like I think you go with intention, and I believe you said that I've heard this from you, that you go with an intention, not even an intention, but like you think that you're gonna go help them, but it's the other way around.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you so strong and how are you so brave to get up every day and fight a life sentence? You know what I'm saying? And like and still smile and still laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how the kids were, right?
Yeah, well, you know what's a trip about them kids is like same thing. Like I'm thinking, I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna talk to them,
be a good guy, you know.
I'm gonna inspire them. And I get there, dog, and it was like immediately the mirror was held up to me.
Yeah.
It was like reconnected with my own pain as a kid and being like, damn, man, watching them have to be like grown men, you know, cross their legs and be reserved and hold back. And then when we begin to share, like, and we sat in circles and they had their writings and they were writing their story, which I never was able to do at that age, is they were telling their story and all the trauma and all the pain, and all the things they had been through. And it was like, I was honored to be amongst them. It was like I was in a circle of giants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People like, anyway, like there was this one, he had got down, so they made him sit by himself. I was overwhelmed, dog. I was just like, damn, like how special these kids are, and then the circumstances that they're in, like just how special these kids are, you know, and given the opportunity, they could be the president of the United States, dog. They were so articulate. And one of them was sitting off to the side by himself. And I asked him, hey, can I sit with him? Because he had got down for fighting. And so I'm sitting, we're eating right there. And he was like, you want to sit with me? Like, serio? Like, you want to sit with me? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to sit with you, homie. Like, I do. This is where I want to be at. I'd rather be right here than anywhere. Matter of fact, let me have some of your beans, homie. And for us to, like, share food was, like, something that was foreign to him. You know what I mean? And it reminded me of when I was a little kid and how I would just hold everything inside and I wasn't able to voice the things that I was going through like they were. And it was just one of those things where, like, the world was flipped upside down.
Yeah.
And, like, I wasn't coming to save them. Like, I was going to be saved by them.
Yeah.
You know, and then I was able to appreciate everybody else in my life again. And everything that I have in my life, it was, damn, G, it was like, it was a life-changing experience, dog.
But you never told us this, though. You never said this was going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
Is this how you envision? Did you envision
Did you
it
know?
like that?
Did you know, homie, that this was gonna happen like this?
No, I mean everything.
Like when I said it,
Shit,
when I said
man.
it in front of you, like I remember sitting in this office, and never in a million years would I have imagined where my life is at today.
Yeah.
Never could I have dreamed of a better
Your first
life.
time here, you mean?
My first time here, I was like, I gotta leave. My first time here, Emily would meet me outside because I couldn't be in here. It was overwhelming, dog. And I used to think like, oh, like I'm just waiting for something. I'm waiting for someone to go, ha, we got you. We don't really care about you. And it never happened. It never came.
You're still
I've
waiting?
been here for 4 years. I'm still waiting. But it just never happened. And it's like, did you know that? Like, did you have a vision of what it was going to be like?
I don't know anything.
Like,
Were you just true to
But
that?
that's why I
what
always
did
think,
you know?
I always think that, there's things evolve, So like I can remember being in Houston and this hardcore gang intervention worker, good guy out of prison, working on the streets like we don't do.
Yeah.
Because, working with gangs rather than gang members. So I I'm not a big fan of that actually, but an earnest, good guy. And so when he says, how do you reach them? And I just remember saying without thinking, that's the wrong question. Stop trying to reach them. Can you be reached by them? And I never thought of that before until he asked me that question. Then once once that popped out of my mouth, I started to say, yeah, can you be reached by people? Then try that on for size. Come in here every day and don't try to reach people. Allow yourself to be reached by people. It's a game changer. So I changed. So that started to change for me.
Right.
Where I'm not going to try to, convince this guy or fix this guy, because I think our inclination to want to fix people comes from this haunting kind of notion that God wants me to be fixed.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. But when you discover that that's the last thing on God's mind, then you go, then what am I doing?
So
That I'm already feeding me in God's eyes.
Yeah, feed me.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. He made you as you were supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so like,
And no one ever said that shit.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. You're
I
good,
wish they
bro.
would have said that
Yeah.
a long time ago.
You're trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah, I thought I had to be a lot skinnier for God to like me.
me too.
You thought you had to go vegan?
Yeah. I'm not going to stop eating meat for nobody. I'm vegan, and we had the thing about the lento. That's another one of those things. Like when I don't even think it was Lent. I think it was something
Lento.
else.
Lento?
It's Quaresma.
Lento.
Quaresma.
Lento's beans, huh?
Lento.
Yeah, lentil
All right.
beans. I was
Feed
like, what do you
Lento
mean?
is-
You guys are
is-
eating soup? Or what?
Lento sopa?
Is how you are in the 5K. You're lento.
Slow.
Slow,
God,
there you
chill. I'm fast. You just don't see me. I'm so fast you don't see me, G. But I'm always the one.
You're not running it.
No, fuck no.
So let's
I'm
walk.
walking
Let's
it.
walk
Yeah, I'm down.
together.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
They got to know what you're talking about. Our viewers got to know. What are you guys
Oh,
talking
so-
about? 5K?
September 20.
Oh yeah, the 5K. I was talking
Okay,
about
September
23.
23.
23rd.
Come through.
Yeah,
walk
you
with
can
us.
walk
run
or
with
run.
us.
You could do it fast or lento.
Just wait till Lent comes.
But I was thinking about like always having to like with God, like the idea of God like growing up was like, fuck, I'm gonna be struck down, because I'm nowhere near like anything close to what God would accept.
What is God?
I mean?
What is your not even interpretation, but I want viewers, because a lot of people were so thrown off by the word God, and I think a lot of us are just traumatized sometimes, like if you don't do good, then God's not gonna like you or you're gonna be condemned. But what is your thoughts on you're a godly man, first of all, but for people that are trying to reach God or to try to know God but are struggling with it, and
What's
I
your
think that's a
take
lot
on
of of our people like that.
What do you think about God? Is God female?
What's your take on
Not really, like, but you know what I'm
that's,
saying?
That's
Like,
how lento over here. That's going to be his new placazo.
Órale,
Yeah.
lento.
Lento, man.
Vente lento.
I don't know. I mean, it's making me flash on a kid who had the most horrific things done to him as a kid. And whenever he gets close to starting to excavate that, he just can't do it. And, and he would say, I've been shot 5 times and stabbed 10 times, a whole list of things in the hospital, nearly dead, intensive care. If you want to fuck with me and fight me, bring it on. I'm not even a little bit scared. But then he started to sob. He says, but put me in a room with a counselor, like a therapist. And I'm suddenly that little frightened kid who the most horrendous things were done to him as a kid. Horrendous. I mean, and I've heard a lot in my life. Unspeakable things. He just can't get near it. But I remember how that colored. He said, "Fuck God," How could that be allowed to happen? But that's how we are. We're stuck in this mode that says that God is in control, and at the deciding, yes, I think I'll allow that to happen to this kid. And it's preposterous, And a kid who just texted me that he had a miscarriage. Why would God let that happen? So there's child consciousness and adult consciousness.
Right.
I mean, you want to get rid of the child one as fast as you can. The one that says you're not good enough. You're really not measuring up. That's the one false move, God. Whereas we, and I speak for the two of you, we believe in the no matter whatness of God.
The God is love.
That God loves us no matter what. And there's not a single thing you can do that will change God's mind. And that's important because, again, we think in terms of good and bad, right and wrong. When God hopes, we'll think in terms of sad and joyful. Because God isn't going to like Lefty more if he stops gangbanging. He couldn't love him more. He absolutely loves him without measure and without regret. But God knows that he's stuck in sadness. And so what he wants something for that guy, not from him. He wants him to kind of see what you guys have seen, which is, that stuff, that guaranteed my sadness. That kept me stuck in sadness. And what God wants for me is joy. And that's the key. I wish we could get to that place, but we're so stuck in good and evil, right and wrong, rather than, are you happy? Gangbanging? Well, then let go of it. Come over here. Try it. That my joy may be yours, Jesus says, and your joy complete. That's the whole thing. It's not do good and avoid evil. It's not hang up your gloves, quit gangbanging. That's hard for us because, we always, homies will say, I've been doing bad, I'm trying to do good. But it's not about that. It's about
you've not been happy.
You haven't been happy.
Been sad. Been miserable.
Been sad.
And God wants us to be happy.
Period.
Yeah.
I like the God is love scripture.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite scripture in the world now. God is love.
And there is no darkness in him at all.
At all. Not
at
one
all.
bit.
Not one bit.
And that's the most female scripture there is.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that time when because sometimes I can get these ideas about like being with the trainees, and I remember that one time when one of the trainees had passed away. But the day that he passed away, we were in Chinatown. Remember? I don't know if you remember when I came to and I had asked you, like, that shit broke me. You feel me? Because we were in Chinatown, and he had just got enrolled in ELAC and got put back on the basketball team. Wow. And he was happy as hell. And he was jumping up and down, and I was just like, I was happy for him, and I wanted him to know that God loved him, So all I kept telling him was, "Dog, God got a plan for your life, homie. like for sure, I know God has a plan for your life, dog. You know, you're anointed, homie. And that was at 12:30. He was a part-timer. He got out at 12:30. And then by like 7 o'clock, I was at home and I was laying on the floor with my son. We were laying on the carpet and my phone was charged. And the phone's ringing. And it's another trainee. And I picked it up and he was crying. And he said, hey, the homie just got shot and killed. That was at 7. And I was like, damn. Like, why did I lie to him? You know, I started to doubt everything. Like, did I lie to him about God having a plan? Like, was this the plan? And I came and I talked to you about it. And I said, hey, was that part of God's plan? And you had taught me about, like, us as humans do things. Like, that's not a part of God's plan. Like, God wants us all to be happy, but us as humans create separation amongst each other and these ideas. And then there was another level of understanding for me about God and God's love. And I was like, fuck, you know, like God still loves us, you know, God still loves him. And God still wants us to stand where we stand right now and do the work that we do. But for a moment, I had thought like, fuck, you know, I had said something.
Right.
And I was thinking like, was that untrue, you know? And it wasn't. And God's plan is to just love the hell out of us.
Yeah. I don't know why we have to have a plan.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
A plan.
You know, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think it's, you know, some things are random. Things just happen. And
why do we always think about having plans?
I don't know.
Think?
And I think
it's control. I think
yeah,
you know we like somebody being in charge.
Is it being in the present, right? Just being in the present, being in this moment, and just moving forward like that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that God protects me from nothing, but sustains me in everything.
Damn.
And that I don't need God to be in charge of my life. I just need God to be at the center of it. You know, so it's just words.
Right.
And yet it's a way of kind of, you know, both are true. Shit happens. And you're in charge. You're the boss of you.
Right.
And so some things, so the Serenity Prayer is pretty good because it, you know, it makes that distinction.
Yeah.
Some things are going to just happen and we have no control over.
Right.
And other things we do.
Right.
Yeah.
And knowing the wisdom to know the difference is important. You know.
Yeah. That was one of those moments, I guess.
It's a heavy moment though, bro, because it's. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like sometimes I feel like it's just heavy. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to strive for your people, for your family, and then then shit happens, you know. And it just sometimes I feel like I carry it, you know. And like I know I'm not supposed to, but
what do you mean carry it?
Like I carry it in my mind, you know. Like it hurts my heart. My heart is heavy, you know. My mind is heavy, and I think I struggle with that sometimes. That And I believe by praying it off, you know what I'm saying, asking God, like, this is not mine, just take it, you know. But like, it's just it's a challenge, you know. It's a challenge, and now that I don't have methamphetamine to, you know what I'm saying, to deal with it, and alcohol to deal with it, you know, I'm just feeling it 110%, and I think that's a challenge. I'm good, you know, but I think it's something that I have to strive for every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, so I guess another question we could ask too is like in that moment before we had talked, I was going, fuck, this ain't the job for me. Because I had that idea had like shifted things for me. I was like, fuck,
what
he
idea?
passed away. That God had allowed this.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, he passed away, because I couldn't see the other side of that. But after talking with you, knowing like this was a human thing, this was a human choice, right? I'm feeding it now. I understand it. Like it was another level of understanding, like God's love, and that God didn't have nothing to do with that, Holly. But have you ever had a moment like that, like in your early years, where you're just like, fuck, like
it's just too much.
This
right?
is a lot. Like this is like it just hurt you and just wounded you. Tough.
Yeah, but you know, yeah, of course, I've buried 220 kids and kids I loved, killed by kids I loved, and I think of Moreno, who they have the statue of out here.
Yeah.
Did you know him?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's tough. It takes you your whole life to discover that if death is the worst thing that can happen to you, then you're going to be toppled by life itself, And so, I believe that Jesus conquered death, but better than that is he's conquered the fear of death. Mm. So with death, you're just kept from life, but the fear of death, you're kept from living. Mm. And so it's important, I think, to, just to know that it's not the worst thing that can happen to you.
Right.
Yeah. So, I love this guy, Krishnamurti, who somebody said, why are you so calm?
Ohai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why are you so calm and why are you so placid and just so still and peaceful? And he said, I don't mind what happens.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's infuriating to people because you don't mind that, and then you go the whole list of things, but you go, that's a free person. That's the guy who knows the glass is already broken. Why am I, like the samurai is the already dead one. It's like, you can't touch me because I'm the already dead one. I love that, because then you know your own power. It doesn't mean you don't grieve. It doesn't mean you don't have your heart broken. I mean,
but it doesn't stop you.
But it doesn't topple you. I always say topple because, your heart's going to be broken, and God's heart is broken by the same things that break your heart.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be toppled by it. But people are, even the prospect of it.
Even the thought of things. I mean,
everybody denies death.
Right, but there's some cultures that kind of embrace it, though, right? And I think
the wise ones do.
Right,
the evolved ones do.
Right. And for some reason, I think over here we learn to be scared, right? And it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing.
It keeps you from joy. It keeps you from the present moment. It keeps you from delighting.
I think because we want all kinds of stuff that the world has, we want like all this material shit sometimes, so we don't want to lose it all. You know what I mean? That's another thing. Like when you're saying like over here, we
want to hold it, right? I want to hold on. I want to mourn. I want this to, I want to mourn.
Mourning is good, but I think like holding on to things like
but
this
I believe you have to
sometimes
release them though.
But clinging is the source
of
all suffering. And so to be able to be free and to let go of everything. But then
even when it's hard, huh?
But it's a practice. You have to prepare yourself for exactly that. All the stuff I care about will be taken from me. And you go, oh, I'm okay. I don't mind what happens. That's not cold-hearted. That's what freedom looks like. But you practice it. You want to be able to practice it so you don't cling to anything. You don't cling to your reputation or what people think about you. You don't cling to anything at all. You want to be as free as you can be.
A simple man.
What was that, dude?
I mean, I think it's a key thing. But it's true, Buddhists believe that, and Jesus lived that.
I heard this story today. It was Nelson Mandela, and there was another dude that he used to talk to. He was a Christian homie, too. He... what was his name? Anyway, it's this story. Trip on this story, though.
I bet if you Googled that, Mandela and the Christian dude he used to talk to, I bet it would just go.
He was Catholic. Serio.
Really?
So it makes me think about this story because Nelson Mandela had just got out, was about to be president or something. A lot of shit was going on back then. It was
South Africa was jumping.
Hectic. So this vato. I want to Google this shit now. It was popping
shit was
over
going
there.
Down.
Shit was cracking. Anyway, this vato goes to pray. He has this thing where he goes for a week. He just goes. Well, you're going to know this vato for sure.
I bet it was Desmond Tutu.
Tutu, it was Tutu. I was going to say Tuti. That's my primo, though.
Isn't that who that was? It was in that crib, Tuti?
Yeah.
I was going to say Tuti, but that's my primo.
I swear I was going to say Tuti. So Tutu, it was Tutu. Tutu goes and prays for a week. Trip on this. He goes and prays for a week. Palabra. This made me think about what you just said. Nelson Mandela calls him. Shit's jumping already. Boom, it's popping. Calls him. A nun answers. You know, she's like, oh, you know, can I take a message to whatever? And then she's like, this is Nelson Mandela. So he's like, oh my, you know, she gets all excited. Nelson Mandela, we love you. We're praying for you. You know, ooh, this and that. Can I speak to, what's his name? Desmond Tutu. She goes, no, I'm sorry. You know, you can't speak to him. He's praying. He has his time with God. Like he would say that no matter what was happening, he wouldn't surrender to chaos. He would just surrender to God. Like when he had that week with God, he wouldn't even jump on the phone.
Yeah.
It was just like nothing else mattered. Do you know what I mean? It just made me think about that. Like that's a trip though. And I was thinking like, damn, he was really like just in that moment with God. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even if Nelson Mandela called him.
Yeah.
And was like, hey dog, the country's on fire. He was like, feed man. I'll be back in a week.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but his connection.
I'll see you in a week.
I mean his
because he had that with God. He was like, he was just with.
I mean,
he
even
trusted.
Jesus, right? He goes up on the hill, right? I think right. I don't know exactly in what passage it is, but also him too. He goes up on the hills and he's praying. You know, just him and God like that.
In Luke's gospel, that's the dynamic. Is he shows kindness, and he goes and prays. That's kindness and prayer. Kindness and prayer. That's sort of like the indicator of, here's how you live.
Right.
Make sure that you imitate the kind of God we have and be in the world who God is. That's the kindness part. But then, keeping God at the center and somehow sustaining it all. Because that's the hard part, is sustaining it. Because it's easy to get irritated and burned out and I just don't have the patience anymore.
Right.
And so, and that's just because you haven't gone to the mountaintop enough.
Pray.
And you took too many calls from Nelson Mandela when your ass should have been praying.
Yeah, for a whole week straight.
Should have been praying. Prayer.
He said, I'll be back in a week.
I thought Tutti, but that's my primo.
Tutti, what are you doing over there?
Tutti, that's you?
You talking
to South Africa? Tutti, my tia's looking for you. Tutti, that's where you've been.
Oh, you don't remember that one.
Yeah. But it's
remember, was it Desmond Tutu or Tutti, my primo?
Okay, all right. Before anything, though, we're getting into the new book, right? The new book, your new book.
What's the name of
new
the new book? I want to hear about the new book.
Just before we wrap this up, do you wanna?
I'm here. It is right here.
There it is. The secret file.
This is my last.
The last draft.
I'm so tired of it. But it's
book. You don't even want to see this book. No.
Get this.
So all this week I'm going to do the audio.
Right. And the title. What's our title?
It is called. Excuse me. It's called Barking to the Choir.
Barking to the Choir.
Barking to the Choir. The Power of Radical Kinship.
Right.
And so the title comes, which is explained at the very beginning in the introduction. In this office, a homie was right here.
All right.
A baker who was a knucklehead and late and mean-ass attitude. And so I'm giving him Gletchan, running it down to him, And he says, relax, you're barking to the choir. And I remember I went like this. I had a little piece of paper. I went barking to the choir. Title of my next book. Just because I thought it was hilarious.
It is. Like,
and I read that part, right? I read that part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we went upstairs taking a sneak peek at the shit.
I read that.
Spencer, you took a while to get here, dog. We were bored.
Where was it upstairs?
It was in the printer, I think. No, we made a copy.
We bootlegged it.
Yeah, so we're going to start selling that shit online right now for $9.99. They got my paper.
I got the paperwork.
I got the paperwork.
But you mentioned in that paragraph that we read that like a lot of homies like they. I'm not gonna.
I didn't read this.
No, go tell me.
No, that like a lot of homies like they have these. They have these words, right, that they think they know, but they really don't know, right? Yeah. And so it's just like barking to the choir, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, do you get those from time to time? Like,
what words do you get or phrases?
I told you one. I think why I mentioned it.
Why?
All right, I'm gonna put mine on last. I don't know if you remember, but I had wrote you an email, and I was like, "All right, I think I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna keep you in the hoop."
Hey, you know what that means, right? Keep you in the hoop. You're gonna hoop G.
Then you corrected me.
I said loop.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't
I
keep me
swear,
in
at
the
that
hoop.
time, I was like, you know what? I need to
Greg?
educate myself before
I'll
I...
hoop you. I'll be hooping
You're
you.
You're gonna
Keep it in the
Father
hoop.
Greg? How you gonna fit him back there, homie?
Oh my God!
I saw.
Yeah, it's
almost-
great. No, I mean,
Do we have like 5 minutes left?
I got one.
Yes.
Wait, I
All right.
want to tell him ours that when he
Yeah, we're at-
so
yeah.
he asked
You
me
want to
that-
do what?
I want to tell him our thing that we got when he goes, so you're gonna go with me? Woo woo, this and that on this day. I said, say no more, G, because I'm in there like swimwear. He loved that one, dog.
That's it. That's it. But somebody texted me the other day
Serio?
in their like swimwear.
They stole my line.
They stole it from you.
I'm gonna copyright that
I'll
shit.
find out who did it. I said, hey, that's his line.
Good.
But keep me in the hoop, whatever you do.
Yeah. Thank.
And man, it's been a pleasure, G,
Yeah.
to be able to have this conversation.
Sorry, I'm a little desvelado.
No worries. I love you, G.
Yeah.
Love you guys
Thank
more.
Thank you for
man.
coming on
Way
our
more.
show.
Thanks for coming to my office. I know we could have done this somewhere else. But it's
No, this
nice
is
to...
fun.
No, this
I like
is
it.
it.
There's
This
a
is
picture of me
this is it.
storing walnuts for the
Yeah.
winter. And
This is his
I
Halloween.
always forget that stuff is up here that people have just put up. Like, Jesus.
They don't
would
even
sh-
ask.
Look at
Jesus
this one.
would slap the shit out of you.
Jesus slapped the shit.
This
This is where all the magic happens. This
is
is where
it.
the spirits at.
Hold
you
on.
know?
Who's that vato right there? He looks like he comes on a movie.
Oh
or
my
something.
God.
So fine, handsome.
You
young
can
man.
always tell your first tour
My first tour.
at Homeboy and your second tour.
You can tell why.
That's your first tour,
Yeah.
That's my first. Tour.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Pain.
that's my first tour.
I mean, before you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You can always tell, huh?
And then
There.
you're over here somewhere, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm over there in the corner. That's my very first tour.
Yeah,
was
you weren't even touring.
I wasn't even.
You weren't
touring
even
yet.
on
I
tour.
was in South Africa.
It's funny, all these new pictures, Artie with his tutor. Oh my God. He looks so
no, that's
innocent.
a female one. Whose baby's that, G?
I don't
I don't
know.
even know whose baby that is, huh?
I get handed so many babies.
You're doing baptisms on the road.
I have no idea.
That looks like you right there in that Pendleton. Is that you, G?
It's me dressed up like a homie on Halloween,
Serio?
like a cholillo with a Pendleton buttoned at the
Do you
top.
see him right there?
Where?
Right there in the Pendleton on the bike. He's on the bike. Look at him.
It was Halloween. I had Lokes on.
Yeah. You on the Ben
I
Davis?
had big old Wangas Ben Davis.
Whose pants did you borrow? Gus's?
I think I probably went out and then ironed them myself.
Serio?
It was Halloween, yeah.
Did the homies teach you how to crease back then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They taught me a lot of things. Anyway,
I like all the pictures, Pops.
I'm honored to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank
Perfect
you.
timing.
Yeah.
There it
We
is.
love you. I
love you guys. Thank you guys.
I love you too.
Thank all you guys.
Thank you guys for viewing another episode of Without Your Permission. Has been
Permiso.
Permiso. Permiso, I have to go get something to eat now.